All right, listen. If you've ever looked at your own dating history and been like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I keep ending up attached to people who are half there, if that? People who text like they're interested but then move like they're allergic to commitment. People who can be intense for one night and then disappear like it never happened. If that's you, I need you to stay with me here because it's not just bad luck. It's not just the dating pool being cooked. It's a pattern, and patterns aren't random. This pattern is you. Not in a blaming, oh, you're so bad kind of way, but rather in a way that the moment you understand it, you can stop following it. And I want that for you because nothing drains your soul faster than loving someone that you constantly have to chase. It feels romantic at first, and then it feels humiliating. But then it starts to feel normal. And that's when it becomes dangerous. I used to think I had a type. I would say stuff like, oh, I like mysterious people. Oh, I like independent people. Oh, I like people who are focused on their goals. And some of that's true. But if I'm being honest, that was almost me trying to make a problem sound poetic and justify it to myself because the real pattern wasn't that they were mysterious. The real pattern was they were unavailable. They were unavailable emotionally, unavailable time-wise, unavailable in a way that always left me wanting more. Maybe slightly guessing or slightly hoping and slightly performing. And for the longest time, I acted like that was normal. Like, that's just what dating was. And I would catch myself doing it again and again, getting hooked on someone who gives me just enough attention to keep my brain lit up, but never enough to feel secure. And I would be like, no, 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 this time is different. They're just busy. Oh, they're just busy. Always busy. Busy is the most convenient word in dating. Busy is the greatest hiding spot because if someone's busy, then no one's in the wrong. You can keep the fantasy of them that you have in your mind alive. You can keep the door open. You can keep your ego intact. And you know what's crazy? If you keep falling for unavailable people, you probably don't even realize how much of that's your nervous system choosing and not your heart. Because your heart will swear that it wants love. Your mouth will say it wants something real, but your nervous system is like, yeah, I want love as long as it doesn't require me to be fully seen. And that's where it gets deep, because falling for unavailable people is rarely about them being special. It's about what their unavailability does to you. It turns dating into a game that you can obsess over. It turns love into something that you can chase. It turns intimacy into a puzzle. And puzzles are addictive. A person who's available isn't a puzzle. They're just there. They say what they mean. They show up and they're consistent. And if you're not used to that, it can almost feel like, where's the spark? But the spark that you're missing might just be the anxiety that you're addicted to. That sentence is brutal, but it's true. I know it because I've lived through it and I still am right now. I have been the person where my whole mood depended on someone else's inconsistency, where I'd walk around with my phone in the pocket just waiting for it to go off and staring at the delivered message like it changed how much I was worth as a person. And then acting cool about it too, which is the funniest part. Like, I'd be spiraling internally, and then I'd wait 3 hours to reply and just reply with, haha, true. Bro, who am I performing for? The United Nations? And that's one of the reasons that we fall for unavailable people, because it lets us perform being stronger than we are. It lets us be the chill one, the low maintenance one, the I am not pressed one. And if you're someone who secretly wants closeness but hates feeling like a needy person, well, an unavailable partner is perfect for you then, because you can pretend that you don't want much anyway. You can keep your pride polished. You can be like, I don't even care like that. But you do. You do care. And that's why it hurts. That's why it hurts so much. And I want to tell you a story that explains this better than any quote ever could. I knew someone who was always in some sort of situationship, relationship, whatever. The kind that never even had a title. The kind that wasn't exclusive, but it's not like they were seeing anyone else. The kind where they would say, we're just vibing, but behind the scenes, it was chaos. Every week there was a new mystery with this person. Every week there was a new excuse about something. Every week there was a new moment of hope on why it would work out more than it was currently. And I remember I was out one night with this friend at a bar, and their phone lights up, and they do that thing where they try to act normal, but you can feel their whole nervous system just snap. And they look down, they get quiet, and I'm like, what is it? And they go, nothing. And I'm like, no, seriously, what is it? And they say, they just texted. I'm like, okay. And they go, I didn't think they were going to. And in that moment, I realized what this is. It's not even love. It's not romance. It's a slot machine. Sometimes it pays out. Most times, though, it doesn't. The payout, though, it hits so hard that your brain starts building an entire day around the possibility of it happening. And at that point, that's just gambling. It's not love. It's just gambling. And the craziest part is that you'll defend it like it's a relationship. You'll be like, no, you don't get it. We have something. And I'm not saying you don't feel something. You do. That you do. You feel a lot. And your body is feeling something 100%. But what it's feeling is relief. And you're confusing relief with love. You're confusing dopamine spikes of finally getting their attention with chemistry. You're confusing the relief of a text back with connection. And that's the trap, because unavailable people are amazing at giving you just enough. You know, just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to feel safe and secure. And if you're like, why does that hook me so badly? Well, it's not because you're desperate. It's because your brain loves patterns that it already knows. And if you grew up around inconsistent love, you learned something without even realizing you learned it. You learned that love is something that you have to work for. You've learned that closeness is something that's not just given to you, but you actually have to win it. Maybe attention was conditional, or moods changed fast. Maybe you had to perform to get love from your friends, your family, whatever. Maybe you were praised every time you compromised, or you got affection, but only when you were useful to someone. And you grew up thinking that it was just normal. So now when you meet an emotionally unavailable person, your brain will just go, oh, I know this game. This is familiar. And then you confuse that with fate. That's why you can meet someone who's calm and consistent and actually likes you, and your brain will go, something's off. And then you think that means that you're not attracted to them. But sometimes off is just your nervous system not recognizing when it's peaceful. If you're used to chaos, then calm is going to feel boring. If you're used to uncertainty, then certainty sets off something in your brain and makes you think that it's suspicious. If you're used to earning affection, consistent affection, no matter what you did, feels performative and fake. So you start sabotaging it. You pull away. You go back to the unavailable person because, well, at least your body knows that. It's a terrible place to be, but at least it's familiar. And healing is literally learning to tolerate this discomfort of healthy love. Because healthy love can feel slow at first, not because it's missing any passion, because it's not hijacking your nervous system and it's not making you perform or chase or making you guess. It's just there. And if you've never had that, it can feel almost empty. That's why some people leave good people and good partners and run back to the abusive ex-partner, or run back and hook up with a bunch of people, because at least it makes them feel alive, and that's all they're used to. But it doesn't make you feel safe. And listen, I know some people hear this and they're going to get defensive. They're like, so what? Are you saying that I'm addicted to anxiety? Yeah, sometimes you are. And I'm not saying that to insult you. I'm saying that because once you see it, you can recognize it and stop romanticizing it and thinking that's what love is. You stop calling stress butterflies. You stop calling inconsistency being mysterious. You stop calling emotional starvation. You stop calling that passion. And I need you to hear this part clearly. Unavailable people don't feel intense because they're their soulmate. They feel intense because your nervous system is literally running and your brain confuses that with love. It's doing cardio. Now, another thing that nobody wants to say out loud, falling for unavailable people can also be a way of avoiding the risk of real love. Because real love isn't just somebody liking you. It's someone seeing you for who you are. And then you have to deal with the way scarier possibility than getting rejected. And that's acceptance. Because if someone actually accepts you, you can't hide behind the story of, I'm unlovable anymore. Now you have to show up and be consistent and honest. And you have to let someone close enough to disappoint you and also be disappointed by you. Now you have to build something in real life rather than just in your head. And building something is never how you imagine it. It's way more messy in real life than you think it will be. So there's a part of you that's terrified of real love and real intimacy. You'll pick people where it's impossible to get that, and then you'll call it bad luck. You'll call it bad timing. You'll blame the dating pool or past experiences, but deep down you picked the one person you can't fully have. Because it keeps you longing instead of vulnerable. And longing is safe, it's contained, and it lives in your head. Love causes you to change your life. It demands change, and change is scary. So people will pick someone who can't commit because it means that you never fully have to commit either. And you won't want to admit that out loud, but your nervous system knows, and you know too. And then there's this belief a lot of us have that ruins everything. We secretly believe that love has to hurt at least a little bit to be real. Like, if it's not difficult, then what's the point? It's not meaningful. And I understand that. I understand why, because media has been cooking our brains since we were kids. The best love stories are always the most complicated. The right person is always just out of reach until they're not. There's always some sort of dramatic barrier. And that's entertaining for sure. You can watch movies about that, and they're way more entertaining than just the perfect love story. But sometimes you're trying to live in a movie when what you actually need is a home. And you can't build a home with someone who keeps one foot out the door, or both, or isn't even there yet. You can't build a home with someone who only shows up when it's convenient for them. You can't build a home with someone who can't tolerate the emotional weight of being in a relationship. And that's what unavailability really is. It's an inability to hold emotional weight. They might be charming, sure, they might be attractive, they might be a 10 out of 10, you know? They might be fun to be around, but when it's actually time to show up consistently in the daylight, making real plans with real consistent effort, they're gone. They evaporate. And then you're left holding the entire connection like it's a bag of groceries where the car is not there anymore. And you're like, why am I doing all this carrying? You're doing all the carrying because you're dating their potential. And potential is a drug. Potential is intoxicating because it lets you imagine the best version of them without them requiring to even be that person or want to be that person in the first place. And you project this onto them and you fall in love with who they could be if they healed, if they're not stressed, if their work calms down, if they got over their ex, if they learned how to communicate. It's like, okay, but you can't date someone's future self. You're dating who they are right now. And who they are right now is showing you what they can offer. And if what they can offer is just inconsistency and confusion and crumbs, well then no matter how much patience you give it, it's never going to turn into a meal. And then there's the ego piece, this is where it gets heavier. Sometimes you want the unavailable person because if you get them, then it proves something about yourself. It proves that you're attractive enough, you're cool enough, or that you're special enough. And that narrative is so seductive because you can now tell yourself that you're the exception, you're the one who finally got them to commit. And if you've ever felt ordinary or overlooked or not chosen, which I'm be honest is all of us, well then that feels like victory. It feels like you finally won. But when you look at it, the only thing you've actually won is a role in someone else's dysfunctional life. And now you have to keep winning every day because they didn't just become available for you. They've picked you temporarily. So now you're just on the hamster wheel trying to stay chosen. And you'll notice it when you start doing things too that you normally wouldn't do. You'll start being less honest. You'll start being more cool with taking disrespect. You'll start going out of your way to do things that you thought you'd never do. You'll start lowering your standards and calling it just being understanding. And your self-respect, it leaks out in tiny ways until one day you're so far gone, you wake up and go, why do I feel so small? You feel small because you've been living in a relationship shape that was never made for you. And I want to talk about modern dating for a second because this makes it worse too. You know, apps, social media, dating apps, hookup culture, all of it. It makes emotional availability feel optional and emotional unavailability feel like norm. Everyone wants the benefits of connection without having to have the responsibility of connecting with the person. People want someone to talk to when they're bored, or someone to sleep with when they're feeling lonely, someone to text when they just need validation. Notice how these are all emotions that are temporary, but the part where they have to actually be consistent and honest and clear when they don't feel like it, well, it's treated like extra, it's optional. So if you're someone who actually wants depth, you keep running into the same wall. Why does everyone disappear? And after enough of that, you start adapting. You start thinking you need to be less intense, less emotional, or less real. So you start becoming unavailable too, and it turns into a cycle. Not because you want to be, but because you are, in your mind, protecting yourself. And now you have two unavailable people attracting each other and thinking it's chemistry that it's taking 10 hours to respond. And then acting surprised when it just doesn't work. And listen, nobody is purely the villain or purely the victim. Sure, there's some people that are bad at this, but most people are just coping. But it doesn't matter because coping still has consequences. So if you keep falling for unavailable people, there's a question you have to ask yourself. It feels probably uncomfortable, but it's important to ask yourself. You have to ask, what am I getting from this? Not what you suffer from. That's obvious. What do you get? Do you get to avoid real closeness where you have to open yourself up to other people? Do you get to stay in a fantasy of who they could be? Do you get to keep your identity as the one who has just not found the right person yet? Do you get to stay loyal to a belief that you've grown up with that you have to learn love because love is hard and you can't give love to everyone? Do you get to chase instead of building something because whatever you're getting is why you keep choosing it? And the moment you see that that is the payoff, the pattern starts to lose its power. Because here's what's changed for me. I realized that I wasn't attracted to unavailability. No one thinks that. I was attracted to the feeling of finally being chosen by someone who doesn't normally choose. And that's not love. That's a wound trying to close itself using someone else's attention as a band-aid. It will hold for a bit, sure, but it's inevitably going to rip off later. So what do you do with that? Because I hate when people talk about the solution to this is just to have self-respect. Like, you can just wake up tomorrow and be perfectly healed. No, it's deeper. You have to retrain yourself. You have to learn to value peace even when peace feels unfamiliar. You have to learn to stop thinking that just because it's intense, then that means it's going great. You have to learn that consistency isn't boring. It's rare. And it is you accepting that you're not here to be the one who changes people. You're not a rehabilitation center. Your love isn't therapy for other people. It's not medicine. And if you keep choosing people who are projects, it might be because a healthy partner would force you to face yourself. A healthy partner is not going to distract you with uncertainty and chaos. They're going to mirror you. They'll ask what you want. They'll invite you into their real life. And if you don't know what you want, then that can be terrifying. So you choose someone who keeps it foggy because the fog lets you not see clearly. And you can live in this fog forever. But you can't grow there. You can't become the person you want to be. So I'm going to say this like I'm talking to you, but I'm also going to be talking to myself here. Stop making about how special they are. Start making it about how you've been trained to earn love. Start noticing that when you feel a spark, ask if that's excitement or if it's anxiety. Start paying attention to patterns instead of moments, because unavailable people are amazing in moments. They can be poetic, they can be intense, they can say or do the perfect thing at the perfect time. But a relationship isn't just a moment. It's every waking second of every day. It's a Tuesday afternoon, but it's also consistency when no one else is watching. It's effort that doesn't require to be begged for to get done. And here is a very harsh truth that you're probably not going to want to hear. You don't keep falling for unavailable people because you're broken. You keep falling because some part of you is still trying to prove that you're worthy of being chosen. You're picking the hardest possible person to choose you, because if they do, then it would finally silence that old belief. But it never silences it, because that belief isn't about them. It's about you. So the way out isn't to find a different unavailable person. The way out is becoming the kind of person who doesn't confuse longing with love. Becoming the kind of person who can walk away from consistency without needing a dramatic betrayal just to justify getting out. Becoming the kind of person who can say, I like you, but I like myself too, and I respect myself enough that if you're not willing to give me what I'm asking for, I will walk away. And you're going to lose some people doing that. You're going to disappoint some people who benefit your willingness to wait. But you're also going to finally meet people who don't need you to chase them to feel alive. And that is, honestly, that is the real flex. Not pulling a 10 out of 10 who's never been in a committed relationship before. The real flex is choosing someone who chooses you back and then realizing that you don't have to suffer in order to earn love. Because love that makes you feel small isn't love. It's a lesson. And if you've learned this lesson enough times, you're allowed to graduate. If this message, if this message hit you, then tap in, hit subscribe so you get more of these videos on your channel. And if you're trying something new, like letting go of the person who's been keeping you in a loop, or like choosing peace even when it feels unfamiliar, just know I'm rooting for you. You've got this. Have a good day.